Okay, so when it comes to our coverage over the Punisher, I kind of feel bad a tad bit because I have to give you guys like these short videos. But the thing is, when it came to the Punisher appearing in Spider-Man comics at that time, and even Captain America comics as well, those stories were very short. So unfortunately, they kind of lead into short videos. But with that being said, when it comes to the Punisher, in his first two or really three appearances over in Spider-Man comics, we didn't learn the origin of the character. It wasn't until we were given Marvel Super Action #1. And with this issue, it gave us the origin of the Punisher to explain why he is the way he is. Because when it came to him being in Spider-Man comics, all we knew was his name is Frank Castle, and he loves to go after different criminals. And that was truly it. And so now we are finally able to learn the actual origin of the character, what made him become the Punisher. And so as we get into the first page of the storyline, we do pick up with the Punisher. Now, here's the thing, because the first page shows us the Punisher right now standing over a bunch of dead bodies. Now, here's the thing, because it's the Punisher who had just survived an ambush. You see, when it came to Frank, he was going after a character known as Joey Charisma. The problem was that Joey was bait. Apparently, this organization knew the Punisher was coming for Joey, and so their main goal is to use Joey as bait to pull the Punisher in and to hopefully kill him off. But the problem is that they were unable to do it. Now, that moment right there basically took place in the past, because now we jump over to the present day and we pick up with the Punisher recording into his war journal. Now, while he's trying to do that, that's when his date arrives. You're kind of like, okay, cool. It's Frank Castle on a date. That seems a tad bit, different. And so we see this young girl walk into his room, and her name is Audrey. Now, when it comes to Audrey, right off the bat, she recognized that Frank Castle is the Punisher. And so she does ask Frank, like, how in the world did you become the Punisher? And so this kind of leads into the whole idea of us learning the actual origin of the character. Now, when it comes to most fans of the Punisher, they kind of know, like, what was the starting point for Frank Castle? The whole idea that his family were killed off. And so we kind of see that moment where it's Frank, his wife, and the two kids. They walk in the park. They had planned to have a picnic. But while trying to do the picnic, they walk by a few mobsters who had just killed somebody. And so, of course, those mobsters kind of like, they saw what we did. They gotta go. And so, of course, they try to kill off Frank Castle, which, of course, they didn't, but they did kill off his wife and his two kids. Now, after that moment, we do see Frank meeting up with Detective Laviano, and I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, for the detective, it's him telling the Punisher, like, hey, listen, man, so you gave us all the different names of all those guys who had supposedly killed off your family. Well, every single one of them is now getting off easily. And the reason why? Because they all supposedly have alibis for that particular day. Now, Frank and the detective, they both know that's not the truth. But here's the thing. One of those guys, his name is Bruno Costa. And thing is, he's part of the Syndicate, this huge mob organization. Now, over time, when it came to Marvel Comics, they kind of changed the name of the group. For right now, in this book, they're called the Syndicate. But here's the thing, because when it came to Bruno, his brother, big brother, Frank, is higher in the chain in the organization. The whole entire mob organization, they got power, so much power, the police are unable to make a move on them. But for Frank, he's kind of like, okay, you know what? Fine. If that's the case, then I'll go ahead and take care of this. And so for the Punisher, that begun his idea of war against crime. But he also knew, like, I need some money. And so what he did was he attacked the Syndicate Central Numbers Drop. And of course, went after their accountant and killed every single guy in that building, especially the accountant. But of course, for him, he knew one thing. He needed money for this war against the Syndicate. Now, we do jump back over to Laviano, and here's the reason why. Because for the detective, he's now being informed that somebody has stole the files on Bruno Costa. We already know who it was. It was Frank Castle. But this part right here kind of gives us a tad bit more information about Frank, like the whole idea that he is an ex-Marine. But apparently the FBI said he has been labeled as a deserter. And on top of that as well, when it comes to his past being a Marine, that man did a lot of dangerous things and moved up very fast. And so it's Laviano's boss saying, like, you don't understand. Like, we basically failed this man, and now his supposedly small war on crime is going to be a big problem for the syndicate, because he will not stop until he does kill off every single person who was responsible for the death of his family. And so once we do pick up with the Punisher, it's him right now recording more information into his war journal. And so this time we see him go after two people who were with Bruno that day when it came to them shooting down his family. And so of course it's him attacking the entire club, but especially those two guys. Now, one of the guys he does not kill off just yet. And the reason why, because he needs more information about where in the world can he find Bruno. Once he got that information, he was gone just like that. But now we have to jump back over to Frank and also Bruno. Now we do learn here that for Bruno, he does have some kids and they're very happy to see their good old Uncle Frank. But things go south very quickly. And the reason why, because when it comes to Frank Castle, the Punisher, he has been making a lot of noise when it comes to the syndicate. And so of course, the higher ups called Frank and said, hey, listen, so we just got word that one man right now is trying to attack us. A man who's basically alive because your brother had failed to kill him off. And that is a problem. So here's the thing. Your brother got to go for creating the reason why we're technically struggling right now in that area, because of Frank Castle. And so it's Frank Costa telling Bruno, like, listen, I was just told I have to kill you off because you didn't basically kill off this one guy. And now he had became a problem. So here's the thing. You are going to disappear. I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to send you away to Florida for the time being. And so just like that, Bruno now has to leave to Florida. Now, when it comes to the Punisher, he already knows where Bruno is going, to Florida. And so for Frank Castle, he goes to Florida and meets up with a character known as the Mechanic. Now, back in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 129, there was another character in that book better known as the Mechanic, but also known as Reese, a close friend to the Punisher. But here's the thing, because we're kind of left to believe that's the same person right now in his origin story. Either way, for the Mechanic, he does help the Punisher get some bombs, because for Frank Castle, he kind of realized the home that Bruno is currently in is heavily guarded, heavily well protected. And so he needs some kind of distraction to get everyone inside there kind of panicking and begin to freak out, because with them freaking out, they're no longer going to be able to make the right moves once Frank does attack. And so this kind of leads us into the ending of the storyline. Let me explain why. Because you do have Frank Castle begin to attack the place, right? Now, here's the thing, because when it came to the Punisher's family being killed off on that day, it wasn't just Bruno, it was other people there as well. But at this point, though, the Punisher had killed off most of them, leaving Bruno and one other person. Now, for the Punisher, he killed off the other guy in his attack on his home in Florida. And so now that only leaves behind Bruno, the man who was in charge of that group that day. The problem is that for the Punisher, when he finds Bruno, somebody else had killed off Bruno. And here's the reason why, because for the Syndicate, they were kind of wondering, like, okay, who do we kill off? The Punisher or Bruno? Now, what they did was they had put an assassin inside the home in Florida to wait to figure out who to kill off, the Punisher or Bruno. But once you had the Punisher begin to attack the place, they kind of realized it would be easy to just go ahead and kill off Bruno now. And so that assassin had killed off Bruno, just like that. And so to close on this book, we do jump back over to the present day. But when we do, it's Frank Castle finishing telling his story of his origin over to this woman that he had a date with, Audrey. And the thing is, we do learn that Audrey is actually an assassin who works for the Syndicate, who was sent there to kill off the Punisher. And the thing is, for the Punisher, he knew that she was an assassin for the Syndicate. So he was ready for her. And of course, he kills her off just like that and walks away. And so that kind of does wrap up the origin of the Punisher. And so now we're kind of able to jump back over to more Spider-Man comics when it comes to Punisher reappearing in Marvel Comics. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.